they took me to Vanderbilt.
Oh, good.
They said blown out up here and they worked on me.
Yes, lots of.
And then we just, they were gonna keep me there about 3 weeks and then, said, well, we can send you home if you have somebody, they'll take care of you.
So you're grateful for Jill?
Yes, I had to, when I
Sorry
got
about that,
home, I had
guys.
to take the directory and look at everybody's name and start learning.
I don't know that I'm gonna.
All right, we are now live and on,
Sorry, 10 minutes, good grief.
so, had a little problem getting online, so we were call a meeting to order at, 4:40 PM. Approval of the minutes of the March 21st, 24 meeting.
So move.
Second. All right, have a motion and second. Any additions, deletions, corrections? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by like sign. So approval of the meeting. Financial statements, quick review of those. Looking at the water budget tracking report, total revenue is at $2 million, versus budgeted of $1,285,000. That includes a grant revenue of $605,000. So if you back that out, we are still well above budget in normal operating revenue versus the budget. So makes it about $1.4 million in operating budget there. I don't see any outstanding.
Go ahead and explain that. You said there's, I see about 800K difference in terms of what we,
It's about 605,000.
and so were you adding that on?
No, I was taking that off of the 2,079,000 to come up with
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
normal operating as opposed to grant revenue.
I got you. And so there's roughly, we're 200K ahead, 200,000 roughly.
Mhm.
And thank you.
Ballpark, yeah. I don't see anything in the expenses. We're at $1.2 million approximately of expenses compared to a budgeted level of $1.4 million. So we're doing well in our water budget operations. In the sewer budget tracking report, our revenue is at 573,000 against a budget of 450 in the operating revenue, some other miscellaneous reporting. So there as well. I had one question for Glenda. She can look it up later. On account number 00721-0221, maintenance and repair of equipment. I had a item in there of about $6,852 in February, but now it's at $555. I don't know what we moved out of there. Yeah, check that out and just see, curiosity as much as anything. So our expenses are $633,000 against budgeted $713,000. So sewer is doing well as well. On the March trial balance report, our cash at the end of March of 24 was $1,587,000, compares to March of 23 of 926,000, and we are continuing to pay down debt, and as normal, so our trial balance is also maintaining and looking good as we go forward. So, anybody have any questions? on
Last
any of
month,
that?
our trial balance was 1,433,298.
Yes,
So that's the difference of $154,017. Was that some kind of grant revenues that come in from one month to the other?
Where, what?
Just, he was.
You look on the
this
minute.
Number,
On the minutes, then you look at the trial balance as of this report.
review of financials.
Difference
I
that,
add, 2 or 3 numbers together. Get that number.
But here's his question.
there's $154,000 different from this month to last month. That's why I'm asking it.
Why the growth in the
Oh,
balance?
you know, our cash just continues to grow. I think it's
Okay.
just, we're
about a
gotten
month.
that grant money. No, I mean, it's a great thing.
Yeah,
We've got
yeah,
that
it is.
grant money and, sales, water sales and all that. Been
Great,
good and,
that is fantastic.
it's really made a difference for us. It's
Good.
really made a difference.
okay. Any other questions? All right,
So I did give you that loan payment that will come up first. That'll be 65,000.
The other sheet there.
Yeah.
Yep, it's got a table down there.
Yeah.
all right, Tim, run us through, if you would, there, you got the list of the project status updates there, the Long Valley Road,
Yeah.
SCADA system.
Long Valley Road, all the paperwork has been submitted to the state, waiting on their approval. And then after we get their approval, then we'll be ready to bid it out. The SCADA system, split system, I got a phone call today. They're still waiting on a few items, but they've got some time next week. So they're gonna come next week and start running conduit and pulling wire next week. On it. The well testing is completed. I'm still waiting. I got the test results. I'm just waiting on her recommendation on which well we need to do what to. You're gonna have 2 wells that you're gonna have to clean. From me seeing these reports, 2 wells are gonna have to be cleaned. I mean, and they need to be cleaned pretty hard. You've got 1 well that I wish we had a bunch of, with nobody ever to worry about nothing.
Which what now?
I wished all of our wells were as good as one
Oh.
of them.
Gotcha.
Well 6, the last well we put in. Pumping at 1,319 gallon a minute. On a 3-minute cycle. Drawdown was 4.63 feet. That's all you drew it down. On well 1, 2, and 3, you're pulling them down 45 and 50 feet. That tells you the difference, and you wasn't pumping them about half the amount.
That makes sense to you.
No, I know it is. What the implications of that is.
So you're sitting there with and the pump's off. You turn the pump on.
Okay.
And you get this kind of flow rate. And so you measure how far your water level drops.
And your water level is
So
in
on
a
the-
space, is it in, are we talking about this aquifer? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
The tank?
So you've got a well and you've got a screen at the bottom of the well. and
Okay.
You've got water flowing in from the aquifer.
Okay,
So if you have a big drawdown, that
Ah.
means that you don't have as much flow in. This well number 6 has got such good flow that the pump
Okay.
can't hardly even hit its limits. It's not.
just the water keeps coming.
No, it's just.
So, and that has to do on the other wells not doing so well. Is the screen needs to be cleaned?
Well,
Is it
they're,
other efficiency issues.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they need to be cleaned. but I mean, it's just the placement of the well in the,
Oh, gotcha. We're in relation to the aquifer.
and I mean, and they're not 1,500 feet apart.
Yes.
When you say the well has to be cleaned, do you mean the pump or do you mean the well itself?
The well itself.
How do you clean the well?
There's 2 or 3 different ways you can do it. You can undo the piping on it and you can pump your chemicals and pressure backwards through your well. Through the whole well and blow it out
Through the
down into
infrastructure.
aquifer.
So it's the infrastructure that needs cleaning, not the aquifer that needs cleaning.
Where you're going out into the aquifer. Yes, sir. You're cleaning the rock and the bedding around the wellhead.
Okay,
When you put pressure on it, you're blowing it backwards,
gotcha.
just like backwashing a pool filter.
Okay,
Make sense to you?
well, it does.
Screen gets.
That makes sense to me. that
Somebody
if-
gets
if you
sand
Had
and-
infiltration of rock and stuff, that
Right.
you're literally cleaning the pond.
You're pulling the river flow to you.
Yeah.
And you're getting debris. And as that debris starts to plug up your aggregate, your flow will be dropping off. So
Yeah,
you're
there's
trying
a-
to blow that debris back out.
Back out.
And when you blow it out radially, you increase your area. You with me?
Yeah, I
So
am.
that helps your flow to
I'm-
your.
I'm amazed that you can actually do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could put enough back pressure on it
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, back
to
pressure.
blow stuff
Away.
very far.
Get it away.
Okay,
Well, you want to start well number 7, if you think you can match up on those. We've got.
That one there's a good one.
How deep do we go down?
Those wells are 110 feet. And they're good wells. I mean,
We ever shoot video.
Yep.
We got video of it. So we got the camera, subsurface camera view of the screen, and you can inspect the innards to make sure nothing's collapsed or failed. And
Right.
What's the
we didn't.
diameter?
Oh, go ahead.
What's the diameter of these wells?
that one there's a 10-inch well.
is that the casing?
No, that is, yes, the well casing.
10
Yeah.
inch.
The drill casing on them, on that well there is 30. 34 inch,
So the hole's 34, and the casing with, what you say?
10
10.
on that one. And I've got, what we've got 2 10-inch wells, we've got 3 8-inch wells.
Your well shaft goes through. And then you've got a screen at some depth in there. Of a certain length. I haven't seen the
Right.
table on this.
So
So
the
it lets the
whole
water-
hole
it
that's
lets the
going
water-
110 feet down
Yeah.
is only a yard in diameter, you're saying, 34
The
inches.
screens are 20 feet long in all the wells.
Not about that, it's 20 feet long.
So in the 10-inch
I have to do some
well, in the
drawings.
10-inch casing,
Yes.
you got 20 feet of screen.
Oh, okay. You're saying screen all the way.
That's down at the bottom. You got 20
20 feet.
of screen at the bottom, and that lets water into that 10-inch casing.
What do you mean 20 feet of screen? Is it vertical?
Vertical.
Yeah.
So you got 10-inch diameter, 20 foot long. You got all that area that
Screen.
lets the water flow into the 10-inch casing, and your pump is pumping out of that casing.
Like a big filter all that for water.
Well, it keeps the rocks out of that pump and going.
Is the screen the shape of that, is it a 10-inch, looks like a tube? The screen looks like a tube, or is it a bunch of screen crammed up in that 10
No,
inch?
it's slotted.
Okay,
Okay.
and this number 6, our prior wells, we've never had a well that produced like that, have we?
Never.
Huh.
I mean, Roger and Brocky hit the spot on that.
Who's witching rods?
I don't know.
Somebody, whichever witching rods pick that spot. We need to keep those.
It's also good water.
Yeah, it is real good. Work.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's why we gotta make sure this thing, and I know we're gonna cover it here shortly, but we did last time.
And I
The
mean,
expansion out
we've
here,
got some good wells. and I mean,
5-star. I don't want to mess with my aquifers, you know. I'm welcome to have the business, but
So, to do their work, we'll be looking at ballpark per well. You got a number or not? I don't.
I haven't
let me
got
put you on
one.
the spot, so, okay.
I'm gonna say just from previous years, probably 25,000 a well to clean.
But this is normal.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I
normal
mean,
PM.
this is a yearly thing that has to be done.
yep.
Yeah, we did one last year, right? Yep, or
Yes.
we totally had to redo that whole
Right.
well. Something else.
I don't know if this is the right moment, but it's as good as any. Speaking of the aquifers, protecting the aquifers and 5-star. I did those conditions for that zoning compliance certificate today for Loves.
Okay.
And,
That's what I meant. I really meant Loves. Yeah.
yeah,
Loves, you know,
That's what I meant.
stars.
were you at the meeting?
Mhm.
Okay,
Talking about, was it Monday night?
yeah.
No.
With regard to the 8.5 acres of potential runoff. Chad's not too concerned about it. We did address it a little bit, but what he determined was there are in fact berms around the pump areas and drains with infrastructure that if there were a pump that went nuts, a hose that got pulled out of the side of the pump and it was pumping gas out the side of the pump, there are areas around the pumps with berms that collect that and run it to the oil water separator. So that's there, but the remainder of the 8.5 acres is not protected. In fact, it's laid so that it drains off into the ground. Chad's take on the whole thing is there apparently are 3 areas designated with regard to our wellhead protection area. There's a 1, 2, and 3, 1 being the closest to the well and 3 being the furthest away. This is in area 3, so it's about a mile from the wells. Given the vegetation and the geology of the dirt between where those are and where the wellheads are, and given that in Chad's layman's terms, that the risk for that 8.5 acres of pavement is really, in his estimation, no more severe than I-24 and 62. It's effectively the same kind of a situation, except probably not as severe as many vehicles as travel down I-24. And so we included some provisions that said no, we didn't, but we will. We are going to include some provisions that recite that if there is an emergency release of fuel, something that causes a spill that concerns water and sewer, that Loves is obligated to immediately sink test wells if need be, determine the nature and quantity of the spill, and then remediate that to the satisfaction of the city. That will be a condition of their zoning compliance certificate. Otherwise, the remaining portions of the groundwater plan, as far as they are concerned, which are primarily the RV dump, the RV dump site, and the restaurant, the grease trap stuff from the restaurant, those are being specifically addressed.
Right.
But I wrote those this morning and I left out that spill, anticipating that spill, and I'll do that tomorrow morning.
Well, I mean, it's you got 8 acres of vehicles.
Yeah.
Parked on it.
Yeah.
So, a fuel spill, petroleum products are, they float. They'll be on the surface water. You do have potentials for stuff that's chlorinated or whatever that's heavier that would want to go to the bottom of the aquifer. But, you know, and so they've got their plans in place and extra stuff for taking care of the risk posed by their dispensing operations, right? And their RV dump. And the rest of it's about the same as a roadway, as Chad's point. Okay.
Yep.
And if there's something that happens that would be a spill out there, then we, you know, they are operating in an area that could be groundwater contamination with something heavier than water. That's where we kick in the other level.
Right.
Okay.
And he thinks the distance that separates the two are enough to give us sufficient time to remediate
Right.
prior to any meaningful pollutants in the water.
Do we know which way the water is flowing from their lot towards the well field? Or do we know
Roger has said that it flows generally toward the river.
towards the river? That would make sense, yeah.
What would be a remediation in this situation? Say they have
Dig it up and haul it off.
Dig it up.
All it off, yeah.
so if they spilled it, it doesn't go into the drains,
Right.
goes into this spot, they gotta start digging.
Trading,
Before it gets to Cypress Creek,
maybe.
It's a Cypress Street.
before it gets to Cypress Creek.
Oh, I thought it said Cypress Street.
Okay, what about the water tower? Tim,
Exterior is done.
Exterior is done, okay.
They finished up Sunday afternoon.
I don't see the picture of the mayor on the water tower.
And you won't if I have anything.
It hit, I mean, it hit fine. I mean, when it was cool, they was here about a week and a half, 2 weeks. During the pressure wash, when it was having to pressure wash it, it was raining, so that wasn't a big deal. I didn't hold them up. They was gonna get wet anyway, so they just worked in the rain. And then last week when they painted it, the weather was great. Wasn't no tire, I mean, it wasn't hot, it wasn't sweating, so I mean, they got a good paint job.
Good plans.
That's the exterior, right?
So was it empty when we did that? Did you have it empty when they did it?
No, we didn't have to empty it.
Oh, okay,
The humidity was favorable.
Yep.
okay, I got you.
They had a cancellation on the exterior crew.
Mhm.
And so they decided, he called me and asked me about go ahead and coming. I told him, yeah, come on. And he said, no, he said, we'll come back in the fall and we'll do the interior. I told him, I said, that's fine. But I said, this. Cause he said, the only other opening I'm gonna have is gonna be in August. And I told him, no, that's out. You're not draining the water tower in August.
Usually humid enough in August, you don't really need water. It's gonna come.
Make your own.
Close.
All right, sewer rehab phase 5, or what about the smoke testing in the grant?
Chad and them done some wet weather testing last week when it was pouring down rain. And we found 3 spots that I know of that we're gonna look hard. That there was a lot of clear water coming in.
What would we anticipate doing to it, do you know?
One of them was in a creek crossing over on Cypress Circle. And not on, I'm sorry, not Cypress Circle, on Fern Circle. Where the sewer main comes down through, it's coming out of Adamstown when it turns and comes across the creek crossing. There was a bunch of, from one manhole to the next, there was a bunch more water coming in on the, after it crossed the creek. So we're gonna look at that spot hard. And then,
Sense.
we're just working on it just to, as we go.
Farmer Circle to the left, I forget the name of the next road up, there's a creek in there behind those houses, and that's where he's talking at.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah,
think
we're
it's
crossing it.
coming out of the creek into the pipe.
More than likely.
Does the creek get that deep?
Well, it does when it's raining down through there, when it's rolling about knee deep down that brook.
Everything from Holly The old Upper Elm Street drains down through that. Get down through the drainage basin, so there's, when it. Has a lot of flow, so whatever Barry throws out in his lawn comes out down there.
It's very small.
There's a bunch of water comes down through that.
So that ridge on Holly, goes that way, and the other way went down by JP's house and down around through this park. So that's kind of like where the drainage separates.
Goes all the way back up to. Close to, well, to the back of Holly.
Mhm.
It goes all the way up to the back of Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goes across Holly. And
Sure
goes
does.
the other
Probably
way.
Willie.
So it breaks around Willie and
Yep.
comes down.
Sure does.
And the reason for this is part of the agreed order was to shut off any outside water coming into sewer pipes going into the lagoons. And so that's the reason why we're testing these locations to see what we need to do there. So,
I assume we've still got tons of I.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
run out. It's just the nature of the beast there.
We're dying a long time.
all right, on the, let me jump over budget planning and projects and come back to that. We've got, 3 people in Frankfurt this week
Hopefully they'll,
studying and hopefully passing their test and getting certified in the next, grade levels up. So
Train them up.
train them up. Their guys are doing a really good job in getting that done. So we'll let you know how they succeeded and when they get that taken care of. On the budget planning, Tim and I spent some time this afternoon and I went through the sewer and the water projections and worked on what I could work on with Tim. Of course, employee financials, I leave that up to Glenda because she's got all that information and the insurance and all of that. She takes care of getting that together and so got that wrapped up and I had it here in front of me turned on, but my computer ran out of juice. I didn't bring my cord, so I don't have that, but so far, what I looked at was and did a quick summary on the part that Tim and I looked at. It compares pretty close to what this year's budget is in most of the areas. The 2 areas we're not sure about, we have to look at a little closer is the professional fees and the technical as a result of some of the issues we got going on, how we want to budget that. So we'll get back together on that. Project wise, we need to talk about some of these. Got an email from Chad back on March 21st to us, and he had highlighted some of the projects and priorities that we discussed priorities on. One is a water main replacement in the. Well, let me start with the first one that we may want to do. quicker is the water main that goes down, you may have to help me, Tim, but the water main that goes down 95 feeds the plant areas is a cast iron pipe and it's 6 inch, is that right? 6 inch. We pump a lot of water through there to the plants. And it's been there for a pretty good while. We probably need to get some relief off of that 6 inch pipe. And one way that we can do that is to replace the water main that goes down the cutoff road by the old LWD not Dr. Smith Lane, but the
OLWD incinerator.
incinerator down that road, and we need to probably upgrade that main to a 10-inch main and tie in on 1523 that comes through the plant, and that would generate more water flow that way.
What is it now? You said you want to make it
6
10,
inch.
just replacing it, right?
So,
Replace it.
so to back up just a hair, we've had an increase in consumption forecasted for one of the industries. And we're gonna meet that demand. And we talked about some major infrastructure projects to meet that demand, and that's probably not gonna be as necessary as quickly. So this is the step that gets us there. It hardens, if you will, our ability by having that pump around loop to supply more water down there, and that's a logical next step. The replacement of this 6 inch cast iron down the main road, if you got into that and replace it immediately, then you're gonna incur downtime, which is unacceptable. So we're gonna, the plan is, and it's
Right.
Dad and Tim got together, and you bringing the water in the other side and harden one, and we can take it down and do a cutover with less interruption, essentially no interruption. And then that opens the door later to do something with that 6 inch when things that really get on firm footing on need and forecasting. That makes sense?
At one time Silas was talking about, we had can you help me here? I think we had like a 6 inch pipe going in trying to feed like an 8 or 10 inch pipe. Is that what we're talking
Right.
about?
Right.
Okay.
Right now, we've got, that comes down, that goes down towards, up the old Gilbertfield Highway. We've got a 10 inch main that leaves the plant. That goes down towards Brentag. We can tie on there to that 10 inch, run a 10 inch straight across and tie back into the 8 inch over by Westlake. And I mean, that'll help
Used to have
a bunch of feed, and it'll take a load off of this old 6 inch main. I mean, right now, the velocity, the amount of water that's going through that 6 inch line is unreal.
6 inches fighting above its weight class right now. And so this helps get supply into that larger line. And it was put in that way. It was not toward need in future. And so this is replacing a what size line on plant cutoff
6 inch,
to
10 inch.
So how long is this gonna have to be, or how much you gotta replace of this what you're talking about doing? I mean, is it a long project in terms of how much land, it covers?
the plant cutoff road distance is the question I think you're asking.
Right.
See that on sheet.
Idea on the footage.
This is a little.
It sounded like you were saying, Gene, that we were gonna leave the 6 inch and put the 10 inch beside it.
From.
No,
No,
Okay.
No,
Where the air
and
products
that's
baseball
actually
field
not
used to
too
be.
bad of a plan if you had a good 6 inch, but the 6 inch that's in there
Before you get to
is
the
old
Eagles
and
Club.
antiquated, so once you had it opened up, you're going.
You know where Brent?
yeah, we've had to repair it.
Replace it, would be,
Well, but
you'd
all the
open
way
up
back
a pathway very close, and at some
So
point you would do
there's
a cutover,
CVA
take
substation
the
there,
6 inch out of
air
service.
products.
Okay.
Where
So
there's
yes,
a little railroad
you're right, that's what
over
you do.
to Big Westlake.
Okay.
Okay.
Still-
Yeah. I know that one.
it'll be easy to do it with the way,
Right next to the old LWD incinerator.
Right, well,
the
no,
way some valves are in the old 6 inch now. I mean, we can valve it off on either side and replace, tie back in. replace on the other side, tie in, nobody be out of work.
Okay.
And then then do away with the 6 inch.
And it's been a problem or
Yeah.
concern for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the way back, Silas was concerned about that. So,
So this is number one priority, you're saying?
yeah, well, it should be way up on the list for me, but let me ask you another question on the money side of that. That's definitely an economic development issue.
Right.
So are we looking to identify funding sources?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're just dead reckoning it was about 900 yards.
Okay.
Oh, the plant cutoff road length is 900 yards. That's about the length we're talking about.
Right.
And there's some ancillary things in there going, I mean, there's no houses on it. There's swamp on both sides and there's a Superfund site near that. So in planning and execution of this, there's some variables there that we're gonna have to
Yes.
address. And we may be able to get some help should we encounter any problems related to Superfund.
Sure.
We'll see.
And so.
On that same side of the road, and yeah, LWD side of the road.
So we may find some things that we might be able to tap in some extra resources to help with that.
This feels like a dumb question, but there's no such thing as I&I in water line, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you said Superfund
it's
site, it's,
called, there's not, it's called a boil water order when you have that. So when we do lose a meter and you lose pressure and you do have an opportunity for I&I, that's what leads to those, right?
Yep.
But the care and feeding of water lines passing through waters, it needs to make sure you have good line integrity. And you don't have line degradation, because then you have main leaks, which lead to I&I, right?
well, they're just two different animals, right?
Right.
Sewer lines, and water lines are not made out of the same stuff, not put together the same way. We just don't have the issue. Generally.
Is there any kind of permitting issues we think other than this super side or anything that's gonna be a problem?
Well, Chad was going to contact the railroad. We're not-
Uh-oh.
We're not,
Forgot about that.
we're not sure on
Mm.
the casing size that's existing underneath up there where we come across. I'm gonna say if it's a 6 inch line, it's more than likely a 12 inch casing, which you're not gonna be able to put a 10 inch pipe in 12 inch casing. So we'll probably have to re-drill it. They may let us. I mean, we'll have to get a permit from them, but I don't think we'll have to pay another crossing fee.
So we're going under the track.
Right.
Yeah, you can't do anything up in that area. They're going them track.
Yeah.
No, the track runs down through.
So, quarter mile. Planning it out, it'll have to be submitted to the water infrastructure bunch. It'll be on the list. Be looking for some loving on some grant money where we can get it, grab it.
Will that have to be bored the whole way since it's swamp?
No. We know, okay.
Ain't scared no swamp.
It's better on that side of the road than the other side.
Right.
Then there's the TVA substation up there.
That section there, we're looking at on that end. We'll probably use HDPE pipe up there on that end, and we'll probably bore that section. Parts of it, anyway.
We have a price tag on this project?
No,
Is it way too early?
Not yet.
That's what we're getting together.
that's what we gotta get together. But that's probably the number one project to get done
Right.
on the,
And
Wow.
that would be
there's
that would be a 24,
the
25.
forecasted demand increase we're gonna meet is the time driver on that.
That's,
Okay. But that's a much different scale project than we previously briefed on.
Right.
Much different. This is more of a normal growth in services as opposed to a big deal. So.
Well, I'm for supporting projects like this, so you see it as a problem and you see it as. a
The
way
other
to help.
project, another one of the projects that we need to work on and put in our budget planning is we need to finish up the piping on Oak Park and 15, Oak Park and 62. We did the work underneath the
Yes.
O'Reillys, but we never have had on the rest of the way to Oak Park with that. We were gonna go one way, and I think Tim has researched it in his, at least in his mind anyway, and he wants to go another way. That will
Me
be
and
a
Chad, me and
lot
Chad looked
to-
at it the other way, and it's actually gonna be cheaper to go the different route now, especially.
that way would be to go
Yep.
up to the corner.
Yeah, come all the way up to the corner of Oak Park and 62, and then come down beside right out beside Dairy Queen and Oak Park, and go down and tie in.
And that would eliminate all of those businesses in that area and get our water lines out.
Is that
Come on.
part of that, the pump issue on the, I just lost the word, and I don't have the excuse either.
Next to me.
Lift station.
There you go. I'll
The
use
lift station, we talked about up there, Gordon lift station, is that gonna? That's all
No, this
work
is
again?
be water lines.
Okay, so we still got a pump issue there, those sides on the pump.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at it. Well, I mean, that's. It's just gonna take some doing on that lift station right there. It's got such big pumps in it. I mean, we're gonna have to do something. I mean, it's got so much head on it. Right now, we've got soft starts on, and Michael, we tried lengthening them out on the soft starts, and it actually, I think, made it worse.
All right.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Made the hand drive worse than any later. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably took so much longer to spin it up, it just kept.
Right.
Okay. When'd y'all do that play?
Went out there here about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
done
Well, that's a
it. And
good,
so I turned them back. What with that?
so as far as to follow up on your question, as far as budgetary concerns for this year, we got anything we're gonna build in on that one?
We probably ought to look at it.
We talked about replacing that. with
Right.
A better
That's,
system.
I think that's gonna be a good candidate for VFDs.
Exactly.
And I think with VFDs, we could actually get by with smaller pumps.
Mm.
But right now, I mean, it's just taking so much horsepower to push it over the hill. And I mean, you can only bring it in so slow and speed it up so much, but I think with VFDs, we could go with smaller pumps and get a continuous flow going,
Yeah.
not cycling your pumps on and off. You could just get a small continuous flow going and get by with less horsepower to push it over the hill. Because you're not having to surge it to get it over the hill.
So you're doing level control with continuous level control as opposed to on off. So when you hit on off, you go with a high flow for a short period of time and the level drops, you kick it back off. So instead you get your little transmitter and you change the speed of the pumps, you do continual level control.
Right.
And that's a pretty big energy efficiency thing in the kind of environment we're getting ready to enter. So, yeah, we need to.
And didn't part of this conversation come out of the electricity utility company saying you're not doing it in a very efficient way right
Right.
now? And every time you do this big surge, you're gonna be charged.
And I mean, we did get a call from West Kentucky and about the rate increase. And I mean, they followed up with me twice on it. They sent me the notice that it was gonna increase, and then he called me back and he told me, he said, I've looked at all of your meters that you have. This one meter, what we done, we flagged anything that was gonna be above a 10% increase. And he said, this one meter,
And where we're talking about right now.
right, he
Okay.
said it's gonna be between 14 and 15% increase on it. He said, everything else you're doing good on, but he said that one, is gonna be.
Let me
above
ask
what
you
We'd like to see.
another question. It's probably stupid on my part, but we're doing the Long Valley extension. Any of that got anything that's gonna affect any of this on the lift station, the 6082
No.
roadway, all that? Plus, we're feeding that from another direction.
Right.
Okay.
We are talking about South Street one, right?
Yep.
Out of the South Trailer Park. Wow. Hmm.
What was that?
This lift station, I was
Oh.
gonna wanna know.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
notes, which exactly one we're talking about.
Herman Gordon's.
Herman
That's what I
Garden.
thought.
Right.
you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, Herman Garden, yeah.
Right. There on Oak Park Boulevard. Know where Herman Gordon
I
used
got
to live?
you. I got.
That's where the last water broke out there.
That's right.
It's the one right there in the flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause Roger and I, we looked for years on trying to turn it a different direction. I mean, it just won't work. I mean, that's. And I hate to. We looked at pump. Turning that light station around and having it pump into the big 10-inch that's coming from Cypress Lakes. Pumping line. When you start trying to combine two lift stations pumping into the same pumping line, it would handle it fine as long as they weren't on at the same time. Then you're gonna create a head problem on one pump, on one lift station or the other, and it's not, I mean, it's gonna beat your efficiency all the pieces, because then your amps go up because it's having to work harder. So,
But this continuous flow is gonna
yes,
help that pressure problem as well as the leaks, because too much pressure on
Right.
the system because of the hard starts.
Yep.
I remember a couple of years ago when I think when Silas was here, you had a big incident on Oak Park. Or something broke down and lost pressure a lot of places, and you learned a bunch. And so I assume you solved whatever the initial problem was on Oak Park.
That was you're talking about the water leak in the little Cypress Creek area off the side of Oak Park. We looked and looked and looked and.
Yeah, I
took a
remember.
minute to find it. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we learned a lot. I mean, is there anything we're addressing or need to address because of that adventure?
that's what part of this.
Good.
Split
Yes.
systems, a part of that solution, right? Yeah.
Okay. So we're kind of, as we work through this, that's addressing some of that. Good.
And I mean,
Glad to hear.
I would suggest that after this phase, in the next, maybe put it in your 5-year
Okay.
to come the next section down, and just keep coming till you come all the way to Fifth Avenue and you'll ever live.
And you're saying replace pipe,
Right.
just keep replacing pipe. Oh, yeah.
So we're
Just
number
keep coming
one,
this way.
number two.
Like you say, you put it in your 5-year plan.
That's what you're saying. I hear
I
that.
caught that. I caught it. I don't know that's one of the green bells.
I don't think Tim's putting it in his 5-year plan.
He may drive by and wave.
Yeah, he's running on a different 5-year plan.
Got a whole heart, dude.
Partner of the county. So speaking of that, is there an overall replacement schedule that's developed for water distribution piping?
Not that I'm worried.
Okay. So we just start where we have failures and we zero in on it.
I mean, you've got places in town that pipes a whole lot older than a lot of stuff that we're replacing. I mean, it's just, it don't have the flow on it.
Right, just doesn't have the wear and tear.
Right. And two, I mean, a lot of times, no. It's got the right amount of flow on it. I'll put it that way.
It preserves it.
No flow is bad and too much flow is bad.
Makes sense.
A lot of this is between your ears, and here you make a good point. That you think about getting some of that there, where we can pass that down at some point.
Well, we did pass the technology point. this last night.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
We had a main break last night. Or yesterday. And I thought they would. I mean, they did, they got on it, but they just. They didn't go about it the way I would have went about it. And. So I came in, I was off yesterday. And
You thought he was.
so I came by and I seen them still down there working on it, and I mean, they were doing what they could do. And I wish things had went smoother than they did. And so I came in and helped them along with it. We got it done.
But what I was talking about is they used the GPS unit last night. So when they replaced the section of pipe and it was out of square and, I went down to say hello and I caught it at action time. So, they had to do some replumbing in the hole and I asked well, maybe stupid questions of what we're gonna do to put a wire on that so we can locate it. And he's telling me how we locate them. When they pulled out the new GPS unit, boom, you got it. And, was that the first? That's not the first location we had done.
No.
Okay. But that's a game changer. You build that database up.
The
That's
one that,
one thing that we did that I don't know that the board knows about. We bought a GPS.
right, I meant to bring that up. I'm glad you did, Dan. We bought a GPS unit. I mean, everything we do now, everything we do. It's, they want a GPS, anything we do, we go out and make a tap, whatever. The state wants a GPS coordinates on that tap. And I mean, we followed it just as long as we can follow it. And so we bought one. And it's with the unit that we bought. And it's compatible with everything that the county's got. It's compatible with everything that North Marshall's got. It's compatible with everything that Paducah's got. And I mean, we can exchange data. And I mean, it's just, the mapping is unreal. And it gets it within a 1/16 of an inch.
So it's just accelerating. I'm here on my computer and I was looking at something earlier. I've got the data from the transportation cabinet up here for the whole state through a browser. And you can go in here and we're talking, you can measure distances on this thing and it tells you down to 1/10 of a mile. And that's where all the government services are going to that level of detail.
Yeah.
1/16 of an inch.
1/16 of an inch.
Are we talking about, just data? Are we talking about visuals? Or are we talking about? What is it?
Well, I don't know.
Keeping up with.
Did you take pictures in the hole?
We did, we took pictures of them and we'll attach it to that file.
Right.
The unit doesn't take pictures of.
No,
So you have a database that you can pull
Yeah.
up.
right.
Great.
Elevations. We can do the elevations on it. I mean, we can do it all with it.
So you take the
I
unit
mean-
like where you made a repair or something and let it determine its exact location and then you enter
Yeah.
that as, okay, we made a repair here
Right.
Mm.
and then, okay.
And I mean,
And,
like,
and then you'll have access to that in the future. It's not a question. How will it be accessible when you have another issue in that area?
like the mayor said,
Can you
When
do
it's-
like a search and pull
this
up?
line, when it started out, was I would assume, was a perfect T.
Square corner.
Well, when they got it dug out and they put the new, we had to go ahead and put a new valve in, got it on, and it was. Put a piece of pipe in it, it was shooting about 2.5 feet on the inside of the other line. And there was probably 6 inches difference in elevation of the two pipes that were once straight. I mean, you just, pipe moves that much over years.
Probably what, 6 foot down, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have breaks and loosens up and the pipe moves over a little bit. and
Is that
then-
what happened? That's what it broke because the pipe moved?
Right,
So there's also, interestingly enough, there's a gas line there. So when you do the BUD and the gas company came over and located your line and you know you got a line and you're out there with a backhoe. So now you gotta do hand excavation. So they actually have a wire down theirs. So they ring out the wire.
Right.
Sense it, stake it for you. So you know, gee, I got a gas line. I don't know. They tell you the depth. They
No.
guess at the depth.
no, they won't tell you.
Oh, okay. So whenever you have to do something, Calvert City Utilities, and I'm assuming you guys know this. When I was doing my project, this meeting last month, I had a gas line project at Destron. I had to call BUD, Tim had to come down and locate the water line. And we've got to provide that service. So eventually, the GPS data would be dense enough that you can go do that with your GPS unit. And then this is the beginning of building that database that does that. And we can, at some point in time, we can probably take some existing data we have from engineering type stuff and populate to map forward, rather than just points that we've got. Right. It's all takes a little budget, we do it a little bit at a time and build her up.
I mean, it just makes the mapping so much better. I mean,
Well, I just see a day where you have software that'll give you, you know, the hard data in terms of a database of the coordinates and stuff, but some visuals too of how the whole system's working and what's going on. And, you know, to me, at some point, maybe you can anticipate where things are gonna break, you know? And,
Oh, yeah, it'll go there.
you know, it would be wonderful.
Some kind of application that's in this, AI
You know, and again, it's
will be coming on this, and then you have
That's
a
what I
leak
would
here, it's
think.
gonna tell you where you need your boil water order and take the manual part out of that figure, you know.
preventive versus reactive,
And
you
there's-
know, things is what.
Boys and girls out there doing
Great.
coding, building these software packages, and your ability to spend even more money on technology is gonna go ever up. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
They're gonna be working from home in their basement doing coding, and these things are gonna blow your mind when they get down with all that coding. They're gonna expect to get paid for all that time in the basement eventually.
Okay, another project that Chad mentioned that has been on the radar for a while is water main replacement in the Hickory Oak Park area that has had a history of breaks.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Which one?
He says the Oak Park Hickory area. Hickory would be my street, and Oak Park area.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it mean.
No,
No, we gotta work on that one.
Maybe an old park.
Hickory's like, you know,
he
but
may have been
there-
me in the whole.
there's
That's
a
what I'm
liquor-
talking about on the next phase.
Hickory might be an area or something.
Is there a lift station there
No,
and that
it's
8-inch
25.
pipe there? From last month, I had some
Water main
notes.
replacement in the Hickory Oak Park area that has had history of breaks.
Hickory Street Ave.
The Hickory Oak Park don't cross,
Yeah, they're parallel.
but there is an area, you know, Dr. Taylor's old house is between Hickory and Oak Park.
Right. No, it's a new main over through there.
Dr. Trevor's old house. What are you talking about?
I mean, that field between Hickory and,
That's been
there's a bunch of land between Hickory and Oak
There's a
Park.
bunch of different houses around
That's,
out there.
that's a new main. It didn't never broke. Going through by where Chris Smith,
Yeah,
where Chris,
that's what I mean by Dr.
He
Taylor's.
moved. he moved that main twice when he was building his house.
Where'd it go?
Huh?
It goes across that property?
Yes, sir. Go right across the middle of it.
You're kidding me.
No, sir. There's a fire hydrant right back by that house.
Okay. You're not leaving. You're not going there.
So that one, you're saying we need to get some more information on from Chad?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. 8-inch main improvements from Oak Park Boulevard to Kentucky 95. From Oak Park Boulevard to 95. 95 is on
Top of the
opposite
hill.
side.
Well, no, I'll talk to him about that one too.
Okay. I think we've already covered this one, 8-inch water main improvements from Dairy Queen north to the 8-inch main north of fire station. Well,
Right, that's it. That's on this next phase.
that's the one we need to tie in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Yes, that's
that's the
it.
one. There, okay.
Oh, that's the one that you and I've talked about. You got another plan. Okay.
Right.
Finishing what Dan had said, finish the work around 62 and
Yeah.
Bogart.
Right.
8-inch water main improvements along Cedar Street to 10th Street Water Tower.
Probably wouldn't hurt in 5 year.
We need to kind of identify these and then set them up as we want to
Right.
put them in a current or a 5-year plan or
Right.
what. US 62 main improvements interconnect east of O'Reilly's to Lone Valley Road. We need to take it on up past O'Reilly's all the way up front of Cypress Campground to Lone Valley Road.
Yeah, I mean, not. That's, again, out in that section where I'm talking about, you're just going to do phase by phase by phase. I mean, it's. I wouldn't put it high on priority.
So this is listing toward that priority. I asked if we had, this is building it. So, you know, where you have problems, you start to identify them, and it's a 5-year plan, you gotta be able to pivot.
Right.
You discover something along the way.
Don't want to-
It needs to screwed up on it.
Far as the sewer concerns, we've still got the improvements on Kentucky Dam Village connection. We need to know more about what the dam is doing in Kentucky Dam Village and whatnot, and trying to get more information so we know what to do there. So that will be that's going to impact several things potentially.
And on that there, Dan, when they do and if they ever decide in their first meeting that we had that any improvements that we needed to do to Highway 62 lift station and
Which is the one below.
right.
Yeah.
And the pumping line, that if we were going to do any improvements on them, that they was going to include that in on their part of the deal. And that was in the first meeting. Because
They were gonna put in the lift stations.
they were gonna put in a lift station in the state park to pump to our lift station on Highway
I do
62.
remember that.
Our Highway 62 lift station, I mean, it's according to how much more how much they're wanting to give us.
Right.
It's not gonna take a whole lot it's gonna exceed its limits, so the state will have to improve it too.
And, you know, I think, yeah, that's what I remember is that they were gonna do it.
Right.
What was not clear is who was gonna maintain it.
You're right.
Which,
There's a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of work.
And
You know,
that's not a foregone conclusion. It's something that could be beneficial to both, and they appear to be working in the right direction. And in this case, Roger had talked to him a number of months ago, a few years ago about I, and they're addressing that and working toward it. And we're probably doing an update meeting, but it's pretty long range plan.
Right.
It's long range stuff.
and you know, like Sarah and cottages we talked about, we'd seen some work. I mean, they'd started doing some things. And so as a part of a long range plan, I hope.
And I talked to Chad about it last week too. After the last council meeting, they had talked about that they were sold out, they were full for the eclipse. And so we noted that, so we could go back and look at their flow data that they was collecting during that
There's
time.
100% capacity.
And then the week after that, we had a pretty good rain. And I had to go back and look at those dates to collect that in that data.
Yeah, I think that was an issue is they didn't have a lot of data, did they?
Yeah, he had a full house.
Scott's still running up there?
He was at the last council meeting and didn't really stay very long. He was there
Mhm.
and They usually have a chat.
I'm sure there's others that we need to look at. One I know that we have, that you and I and Gene talked about was that subdivision over there off of Gilbertsville Highway over there, tying that in. I don't know where we are with that. It's kind of gotten pushed back. What is that subdivision called, Gene?
That's up to
It's a
myself.
trailer
Johnson
park or
subdivision.
whatever,
Yeah, that's.
Johnson
Johnson.
subdivision.
Johnson subdivision, yeah.
Oh, out here.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
water project out there to move and improve the tie-in.
Right.
I don't recall where it got out to. We'll have to dig back in. Right. So what's our timeline on budget development? You want to brief us here, Glenda?
On water and sewer.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, we feed into the whole city's budget, so.
Right, right. But I do them separate.
Mhm.
So today I've worked on, making all my adjusting entries for my auditors, and I got all of the audited numbers in.
Mhm.
Because, you know, we will look at all of that. It's a big part of it. I've started putting some of the 9-month, no, I think I have all the 9-month numbers. I was looking at where we're gonna end up. And then looking at how we made the budget.
Well, on the
I
timeline.
had the revenues all in.
Yeah,
I was
but the
looking at. So I
timeline
don't
to
know.
fit, the timeline to fit in with the city council fit in the budget. When have we gotta have our water sewer budget submittal ready? That's more of the timeline than progress report. Is what I'm doing. So we're talking about having the council retreat
The 16th.
the 16th.
That's when it is. Mhm. So I'll have it finished before then for you to look at.
Okay. That's,
I've just been working on city.
yeah, I understand.
We jump
But
back and
just to
forth
let you
like-
guys know, we're talking about a lot of stuff and we got some, but we, you know, we gotta be ready to pile in on the 16th.
Oh, 16th of May.
May, the
Okay.
council's having a budget.
The budget's gotta be passed in June.
Mhm.
So we need to, you know, finalize and zero in on some, numbers to submit to that 16th workshop that are gonna be pretty dramatic. Now, last year, when we submitted this department, we kept it red. We were red.
Mhm.
We had a lot of grants up in the air and different things. We did not fill the water manager slot.
Right.
So when we develop the personnel budget, we gotta worry about what we're gonna do with replacement for this guy and what we're gonna do for leadership. Full-time staff leadership, see where we're gonna go. So some of those personnel decisions are still, I mean, we decided what we're gonna do. We left it vacant. In retrospect, it's, I think, proven to be a pretty decent decision. But we've got a capability to execute all kinds of responses. Get our certification of day-to-day operations and emergency responses. So, you know, replacement for our superintendent as he moves on to his 5-year plan is paramount of what we're gonna do. So we gotta build that, make that into the budget and see what we're gonna do with overall salaries on the labor side. And then, you know, water plant operations and waste treatment operations, she's gonna go do a look back. We're gonna, you know, tag those for any changes we know are coming, chemical cost or anything like that. And then what we're talking about here are special projects. So it just all kind of comes together. So the special projects, I don't know if you know, we can these lists of stuff to be executed this year are obviously the most important, and we've talked about those already. And a lot of these, I think, are longer term projects unless something breaks.
Right.
Right.
And
Some of these are.
to get more into that, the city has ARPA funds. That the grant funds that are substantial. What was the number on that?
About 660,000.
Okay, and we've got to decide and delineate where those are going before you're in, so they're gonna be included where those funds are headed. And water and sewer is clearly an allowed desirable use for those funds. And so there's other things in the city of Bruin that may tap a few of them, but this department will get a share for sure. So we're still ferreting all that out in the overall budget process. We're going to be allocated. But we've got to have some recommendations to council on those things by May 16th. So I'm not really you know, the numbers look good. We did review and the water cells have been good and our numbers have been okay. So that goes back into our water rate study. Eventually. You know, we're gonna make any recommendations for water rate changes and that doesn't have to come, as part of the budget process. Your water rate revenue is gonna be estimated based on water sales and the current rates. And so we still have some things up in the air that could influence those recommendations, right? So that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be part of the budget process. That's its own timeline. Now, obviously, we submitted a budget and we were just ripping red out of our operational expense. Some of that had to be done immediately, and we're not facing that. But there are things, you know, we have to do, and the grants have been flowing rather well, no pun intended. Flowing, but anyway, in doing some things commercially, we've got some prospects out here to increase business. You know, the increased water line that we talked about, you know, pulling up on the schedule because we have a timeline on that, and that's due to water customers increasing forecast, and we're gonna meet that. And we've got enough capacity to meet, we're gonna do that. And then, you know, potentially, you know, long-term talks with the state park and see where the win-win is there. That's a way to increase revenue. And there are a few other projects around that could, you know, increase water here and there. But that's an economic development question. I mean, we need more businesses, we need more homes, and water goes up. You know, we're a very small water department and we have good business and we're able to make ends meet really well. And I think it's an overall feeling, especially in current news, that this is very important, amenity that identifies a community. And I think that our rate study and his view on that and his summary of that is something that I think is appropriate to share with council members, you know, a lot of that, and they need to be reminded of that. And I think the general public needs to have an understanding. If you are depending on a commercial water system or sold out and you didn't have a city water system, it would dramatically change the amenities in this community. And we want to, you know, right now, with the help that we have and the guidance that we've had and where we're going, I think we're in pretty good stead. I mean, you're not going to get rich in the water business. We're not really about getting rich in the water business. There's people who do it for profit companies, right? And that's not the purpose of why this board is here and why the city funds this utility. I mean, it's core. And we have complaints, and sometimes social media will fire up and talk about our hardness in our water, and we're fortunate that we've got very good groundwater here, and we don't have to pull surface water out of the river or out of the lake, which I think is an advantage. Unfortunately, that means it is hard water, and we had done some studies on the water plant and looked at the operational cost of pulling the hardness out. Let's make the choice for everybody. We're going to soften your water for you, and that really makes the rate per thousand go up. And we've got those numbers, and it's more if folks really want soft water, they can make that decision. And put softeners in their homes, and for this board to say, we're gonna invest in that water plant with that capability, suddenly you got a waste treatment. Something you've got to deal with. You either got to find a home and be selling that material you're pulling out of the hardness to a gypsum board somewhere. Right. And you're still got a lot of trucking of a lot of pounds of material, and we got those numbers in that report. And the option, when we start looking at the price per kilogallon, that's probably not where we need to be. And that may change something if we took another look, you know, some number of months or years from now. But the hard water in Calvert is not that different from a lot of locations. And if you want to see how it can impact their sort of local communities, I'm not going to name any names, but when you look and see the troubles they've had, that doesn't make it a desirable place to live from an outsider looking in, and it creates problems for their residents, and we haven't had those here. And you know, unfortunately, we do have aging infrastructure. Had a main break just last night. There was a boil water order went out to, and I don't know how many households were impacted. I don't have that number right off. But
no, because John and Kerry worked on that.
Because we had that, when you had that main break, you had that I, and you got to make sure we don't make anybody sick. So the code red announcement did go out, and I don't know when we cleared the boil water. When was it cleared?
Hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll send out a code red notice on it's over. Okay.
One other thing, we talked about that berm around their water plant.
Yes.
Hardening that plant.
Yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that.
It's gonna be a cost on, I know.
That's one of the big potentials for the ARPA project. So the city is funding the engineering work on that.
Okay,
And so once we finish that engineering work, we'll be able to develop a budget, and we gotta make some decisions on how that comes about, but it's gotta come about.
Yeah.
And it's we've said it in here several times, and we'll say it again, it's independent of a decision to build a new water plant or not. We've got that tie-in infrastructure down there, it's gotta happen.
Right.
And the
Well-
reliability portion.
One thing I looked at this budget, or our balance, it's something we watched for years, and it was around $1 million is what we've always said we wanted to be, and we've seen it drop below that to 800, 700,000, and now we're up to 1.5 million. But I also recognize the economic times we're in. How's Estron doing? Y'all running at capacity? How's Westlake doing? Y'all got plenty of business? All those kind of things are going on right now. All these plants want more, but the next economic downturn, they may not want more. They have to contract.
And
We've really had quite the run the last, 10, 12 years.
And we've had discussions that if somebody needs to step up their water consumption past our infrastructure ability of what would be considered normal, affordable growth that can be sustained, and that word's overused, but normal growth, if it's above and beyond that, the funding for that is gonna have to be part and parcel of the conversation. This small water system, we can't commit to that kind of commitment. So
Yeah.
whatever that project is gotta be able to do the influx of capital. And there's more than one way to do it. I mean, we can, and I think did we have Chad make this presentation here? You go get a loan. We could do it that way, but before we go get a loan and put it in a bunch of infrastructure for you, you're gonna have to sign a water contract.
Right.
And it's gonna be a make or take type water contract, or if the project has its financing, it's gonna do influx of cash. You can say, well, I'm gonna give you a discount for X number of gallons. How many years? And if you don't cash your discount, then your cash has already come over to the city side. So, we gotta take care of the enterprise, and that's what makes Calvert City a little different than your average rural water
Yes.
department.
Because of the dynamic.
That dynamic is what drives us to need at times a little more management than your typical rural water district to make those kinds of decisions.
Well, what was the point of our consultant? He said we need to raise rates. This may be just a blip here, this 1.5 million, but I mean, if it continues, our balance keeps growing here, it means we're ahead in some sense. But I know the city loans us money at times.
Well,
We have
it's done
projects,
more than just loan money.
grants.
It's been cash influx on a lot of sewer rehab.
It's been cash, what we've,
Just cash.
as we go.
Yeah.
And I love that. Well, listen, I'm off.
And the city council has to deal with that. And so you're taking tax revenues and city resources and putting it into a utility that people utilize. Okay? And then you get into philosophical conversations, is the purpose of the city and tax, that is the use of tax revenue that we can do. And then you can't just, there's a balancing act, and that's what this advisory board, I think if we hold everybody somewhere else on the spectrum on just how you do that recommendation. So
Well, I mean, those are city taxes, and this water system is much bigger than the city. We've annexed it out here, so
that's part of the problem.
we
That's why
are
Glenda does the accounting that she does.
subsidizing.
That's
But
why
your
Glenda
sewer
does it.
system is not.
Sewer system.
System is
is not-
strictly in us. Okay, yep,
And the sewer system is hurting worse than the water system.
right.
From a rate standpoint.
But you gotta have people using the utility, be responsible for its consumption. You can't, you have to keep your rate somewhat, and you have to provide, and this is me talking. You have to provide a way for folks who need assistance to get it. And so it's a careful balancing act. And just to say carte blanche, the rate's gonna go wherever and don't give a darn about anything else, and you
Yeah.
have issues. So as we do recommendations to increase rates, and people who can pay should pay for what they use, and if some households have problems, then how do we address that? And that's something that we can make recommendations to, and since it's a monetary thing, the council has to make the ultimate decision. And so right now,
Well,
we're
I mean-
focused on project development and coming up with a good budgetary numbers for where we're living with,
Right.
and it works out pretty tight. and I won't say easy because it's not, 'cause I don't have to do the work. But you look at your performance for the prior 12 months and you identify where the changes are and try your best. That's what budgeting is, right? And so we'll get into operation expense, we'll get into labor expense, we get into that, and then we've got these priority projects tagged. And at some point in time, we've got to revisit the recommendation for water rates. And right now, we've got we still have in place tie in ratio, right? Right.
Yeah.
And that's where we're living right now.
So let me go here then. Let's look back at this. What are our loan rates here on these loans that we're carrying? Where are they?
They're low.
Yeah, the rates are great on it.
Some of them.
Those loan rates are-
Okay. So they're worth carrying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very low.
I just see us if we
We're
we get in
working.
a position that we just have excess funds and we're on the projects we need to do and we still have excess funds.
We,
Why not pay off for loans?
I think another
We
reason we're
have-
seeing our cash go up is because, well, like we said, we've had those grants and that grant
Yeah.
money coming in.
Which we won't have forever.
And then we had the excess, those projects came in under budget. So then, we're able to do some other projects
yeah.
that we wanted to do that maybe we would have had to spend our cash on
Good point.
or whatever. And so it's just really helped. And so our cash has just been going for our regular operating expenses and not having to go for
Yeah,
any
covering.
projects.
Got it.
And it's made a big difference.
Our
But
largest
gonna be-
loan in generating interest costs that I hope when that is resolved, that should be part of the remedy, because you're not reducing principal.
No, we're not. And that loan's gonna be about a 95,000 every 6 month payment.
Yeah, and
So
so it's an issue.
Yeah, and so my point is, I mean, if we just find ourselves,
So if you
In this
take that one
particular-
off the table, the rest of them are very manageable.
You'll have to-
Mhm.
but I just, if we found ourselves there and based on our consultant, I don't know that we are.
And see, we
Do
do
that or
have one other loan, the water meter loan, but we will have that paid off. It's about 95,000. It'll be paid off next year.
I'll make it in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be
I'll make
gone.
it.
So that'll help too. We have one paid off.
I think when we have that time, there's lots of options out there. But the thing that we've got this built-in cost for inflation is a great tool.
Yeah,
And that was a wise decision wherever that got put, because we're not actually implementing a rate increase. We are responding to the impact of inflation. But so there's a lot of discussions
Right.
that we can have
Just like, I mean,
on this. We're
fire
just,
went up. I mean,
but we will have to deal
That's
with
true.
it because it's not enough unless we adjust that rate somewhat
That's another
with an
aspect.
extra point or two or something. But there are options.
It's already winning.
So Tim just threw out another, he's got a pocket full of monkey wrenches over here today. The rate change is in effect. So when we go mapping forward on our power consumption, we need to really think about that for a minute.
on our fire consumption or what?
The power
Thank
consumption,
you.
I'm sorry, it's my bad.
Yeah.
Was this,
that went into effect April the 1st, is that not right, Glenn?
I'm not sure.
So we need to take a look because we're gonna have,
West Kentucky.
we're gonna have
Yeah.
shorter data on power consumption to evaluate
Right.
than we normally do. So make sure we get that.
Think about that.
Yeah.
When we're doing utility now.
Right.
You guys are really looking at that.
so we got these projects and if, well, that were a point to prioritize them, but just for my part, just speaking for myself, that water main down 95 is right at the top of my list.
The one on
Yeah, that will be.
LWD.
Yeah, if we're gonna make something happen.
Yeah.
We need to make that happen.
Yeah, that needs to be first on the list, in my opinion.
If you wanna think down the way, one day influent will be effluent.
Yep.
And that's where it's headed.
Right.
And, you don't like to think it that way,
Right.
but it
You're
will be.
right, you're.
And
exactly
you're
right.
looking at, say, half the water going to Tennessee won't have to be done. we'll just be come back, right, and used again, but that probably won't happen when we're sitting here.
That'd be a great project. You can get some global attention, that would get you some.
All right, we're at 6:04. I don't want to cut anybody off, but we pretty much covered everything on the budget.
We do
agenda
have
thing.
one piece of information here. I'm not gonna be real communicative on this, but work is resuming again on the sewer project. And so there've been some conversations, we're straightening out some of that, and work is resuming on the water project.
Good.
Or on the wastewater headworks project. That's
Edward,
proper title.
influent lift station.
Influent lift station, so we're getting fired up on it, and the intention is to make sure we get it knocked out in plenty of time before we lose weather.
Great.
Anything else, Bill?
The agreed order that tied to that.
It's tied to that, and
Yeah.
we've got time based on what information we know now.
But not infinite time.
A little time.
We've got until December 31st of 24.
The agreed order?
Yeah.
Did they like extensions?
No, I'll tell you that, no, they don't. They might under the circumstances, but no. They don't like extensions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael, you got anything?
No, sir.
Steve, you got anything? Barry, you good? Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
great.
Glad to know who you are.
What name tags?
Not just for you.
You look different, Bill, but I mean.
All right, gentlemen, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Barry. Have a second.
I'll second.
Michael, second. All in favor, say aye. All right.
Don't be there, and it just-
Yeah, you gotta come